She thought cheating was easy until I ended up controlling her lover's job. I never thought I'd be the kind of man telling a story like this. For most of my life, I believed in loyalty, love, and the idea that marriage was sacred. I wasn't naive. I knew infidelity existed. I'd seen it happen to friends and coworkers, but I always thought I had chosen my partner wisely. I believed my wife and I were different. We had been married for 7 years. 7 years of shared meals, vacations, family gatherings, and countless small routines that made life feel steady. I worked hard in my career, slowly climbing up the ladder in my company, while my wife, Clara, worked part-time and spent a lot of her free time with her friends. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. Or at least I thought we were. The truth is sometimes we don't notice the cracks until the whole wall falls apart. Looking back, I can see the signs I ignored. Clara was on her phone more often, smiling at texts she didn't share with me. She started dressing up more whenever she said she was going out with friends. And intimacy between us had cooled down, not in a dramatic way, but gradually, like a fire slowly burning out without anyone noticing. I brushed it off as normal. Every marriage has phases, right? That's what I told myself. I trusted her, but then one night, everything changed. The discovery it was a Saturday evening, and Clara said she was meeting a friend for dinner. I didn't think much of it, but as I sat at home, something in my gut felt off. Call it instinct, call it paranoia, but I just knew something wasn't right. For the first time in our marriage, I did something I had never done before. I checked her laptop. She had left it open on the table. My hands were shaking as I clicked through her emails and messages, telling myself I'd find nothing and feel guilty, but I did find something. Dozens of messages with a man named Ethan. Flirty messages. Explicit messages. Messages about meeting up in hotels, sneaking around when I was at work, even jokes about me being clueless. My chest felt like it had been crushed. I read line after line, hoping I had misunderstood, but there was no mistaking it. My wife wasn't just cheating, she was comfortable enough to laugh at my expense while doing it. I can't even describe the mix of anger, pain, and betrayal that went through me. I sat there for hours, scrolling, rereading, staring at their pictures together. My wife, the woman I had built a life with, was having an affair. When Clara came home that night, I didn't confront her. I just watched her walk through the door, smiling casually, asking if I had eaten. She had no idea I knew. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything in my head, but one thought stood out. Who the hell is Ethan? Who he was over the next week, I quietly gathered information. From the messages, I learned Ethan worked in the corporate sector in a mid-level managerial role at a company that was a client of ours. That hit me hard because in my position, I was on the path to becoming a senior executive, meaning depending on where he worked, I might actually cross paths with him professionally. The irony wasn't lost on me. My wife's lover wasn't some stranger in the shadows. He was a man who, indirectly, was part of my professional circle. I didn't reveal what I knew. Instead, I started planning. I wanted to be smart about this, not emotional. Clara thought she was clever, hiding her affair, laughing behind my back. But she had no idea that I was already 10 steps ahead, up 8 steps. And a few months later, a restructuring happened at my company. With my promotion, I was placed in charge of overseeing several client accounts. When I received the list, my heart nearly stopped. Ethan's company was now under my direct supervision. In other words, I was about to become my wife's lover's boss. The universe has a dark sense of humor. I didn't have to lift a finger. Fate handed me the perfect setup. Playing the game, I still hadn't confronted Clara. She thought everything was fine. If anything, she seemed more relaxed, maybe believing she had gotten away with it. But in Reality, I was strategizing. When I first met Ethan in person at a corporate event, I kept my cool. He was charming, confident, the kind of guy who probably thought he could take anything he wanted, including another man's wife. He shook my hand, looked me in the eye, and had no idea that I knew everything down inside. My blood boiled. But outwardly, I was calm, professional. Over the next few months, I made sure our interactions stayed strictly business. I didn't give away a single hint of what I knew, but behind the scenes, I began tightening the ropes. Ethan reported indirectly to me, which meant I had influence over his projects, his evaluations, and ultimately his career. And slowly I started pulling the strings. The subtle revenge at first, I made his work life more demanding. Deadlines were stricter. Expectations were higher. I reassigned him to tougher clients, projects that required late nights and weekends. Ethan started slipping. He looked tired during meetings, stressed when we spoke. I never did anything unethical on paper. Everything I asked of him was fair, but I knew exactly how to push him to his limits. Meanwhile, at home, Clara complained that Ethan was becoming distant. I would nod, pretending not to care, all the while hiding my smirk. She didn't realize I was the reason Ethan barely had time for her anymore. The cracks in their little affair started showing. And I hadn't even revealed my hand yet. The breaking point 6 months into this quiet game. Ethan made a critical mistake on a major account. Normally, it might have been overlooked, but given his recent performance issues, I had no choice but to escalate it. HR and upper management got involved. I sat across from him in the disciplinary meeting, watching him sweat. He looked at me with desperation, trying to explain himself, and I kept my expression neutral. Professional, cold. Within weeks, Ethan was demoted. His career took a hit he would struggle to recover from. And Clara? She suddenly found her perfect escape wasn't so perfect anymore. Their affair fizzled out soon after. Ethan pulled away, buried under stress and shame. Clara grew frustrated, restless. She had gambled everything for a fling, and now she was stuck with the consequences. The confrontation one night, I finally confronted her. I laid out everything I knew, the messages, the meetings, the betrayal. Clara broke down, crying, begging for forgiveness, claiming it didn't mean anything. But I had been preparing for this moment for months. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "You thought cheating was easy. You thought I'd never find out? But I became your lover's boss and I ruined him without lifting a finger. That's what happens when you betray me." She sat there in stunned silence. For the first time, she realized the full weight of her actions. Moving on, the marriage didn't survive. I filed for divorce shortly after. I wasn't going to spend my life with someone who had so little respect for me, but walking away didn't feel like defeat. It felt like victory, because in the end, Clara and Ethan both lost. She lost her marriage, her security, her illusion of secrecy. And Ethan lost his career momentum, his confidence, and his affair. As for me, I rebuilt, slowly, carefully. I focused on my work, my health, and eventually I opened my heart again to someone new. Someone who valued loyalty and trust. Sometimes I think back to everything that happened, and I realized this. Cheating isn't just about betrayal, it's about arrogance. Clara thought she could play me for a fool, that her actions wouldn't catch up to her. But karma always finds its way, and in this case, I was karma.